It's very touching to see so many of you joining us for this memorial Mass, and I know that there are countless others who are with us as this is being broadcast and live streamed. And I want to take this opportunity as well to thank all of those outside of the Catholic community for their condolences that they have expressed to me and in so many other ways, but also to the media for the wonderful coverage that they have offered during these days. Some of you may recall that I mentioned on the occasion of the ordination of our new auxiliaries that someone early on in the papacy of Francis asked me, what makes Francis tick? I said, as I believe even more now today, the answer is simple. Francis not only believed, but he had a palpable experience of the risen Lord. Not only did he believe Jesus rose from the dead 2,000 years ago, but he was very deeply in touch with the reality that the risen Lord is acting and leading the church in our day. And so he saw his task as a successor of Peter to be attuned to the Lord and to manifest his presence in the world today. The scriptures for this memorial Mass are the very ones that the Universal Church hears today on this Wednesday in the octave of Easter, and how providential they are. Peter with John makes it clear that he has nothing to bring to the sufferings of the world but Jesus. Francis, as his successor, was true to that vision and that Petrine mission. Who is this Jesus, this risen Lord? How do we recognize him in the church ministry? The Gospel from Luke is instructive. Notice that, first of all, Jesus does not interrupt the conversation of the two disciples on the road to Emmaus. He doesn't bring his own message or reveal himself as the risen one from the dead. Rather, he listens to them. He wants to know the depths of their sorrow, their concerns. Pope Francis reminded us that when we do that, we act like Jesus. The Church is true to her mission when she is both a teaching and a listening church. This pastoral approach begins by understanding that realities are greater than ideas, as he put it. And as pastors, we must be in touch with the lived experience of people's everyday life. This means that the pastoral theology of our church is on an equal footing with all the other branches of theology: dogma, scripture studies, moral theology, ecclesiology, liturgical and spiritual theology. Pastoral theology is not derivative, but must call all of these other branches to pay attention to the concrete reality of human life and human suffering in a much more substantial way if they are to be authentically faithful to the teachings of Christ. The second thing that we learn from this scripture text that we notice is that when Jesus does speak, he draws them into an encounter that interprets their life, that transforms their lives. He helps them see the bigger picture, calling them out of a self-absorbed approach to their lives. The opening line of the late Pope's Magna Carta says it so well. The joy of the gospel fills the hearts and lives of all who encounter Jesus. Those who accept this offer of salvation are set free from sin, sorrow, and inner emptiness and loneliness. With Christ, joy is completely born anew. Up to this point on their journey to Emmaus, they are absorbed in their suffering and their disappointment. But the encounter with him changes them to the point that they begin to care about him. He looks as if he will go off on his own way alone as night falls. But they are sensitive to him, and they ask, "Stay with us." They did not just because they wanted him not to go away, but because they cared for him. A remarkable transformation from their self-absorption. That is true conversion. Not just having a change of mind, a cerebral acceptance of a particular teaching, but one that makes us more human, more loving, less self-centered. But the full conversion comes in the breaking of the bread, when they recognize him. He vanishes just as at that very moment, because now they have all that they need to take up the mission and return on the path that they came, but return differently. They now are empowered to allow their lives, just like that bread, to be broken and shared. Celebrating this first Eucharist in the life of the Church in a way that defines what we do each time that we gather around this altar. We call this Mass. It's from ite missa es. This is the dismissal. What we do here sends us out to be broken for the life of the world. I know that much ink is spent talking of the need for a quote-unquote new evangelization. But the emphasis cannot be about making evangelization new, a repackaging of it. No, we are the ones who need to be made new. We cannot talk about evangelization of proclaiming the good news if our hearts are not left burning from the encounter with the Lord and filled with the joy to overflowing. This is the Jesus who always walked alongside and even ahead of Francis. And now that Francis is no longer with us, he would want us to take up this same mission with the palpable sense that Jesus continues to abide with us and invites us to make him present in the world by being in touch with the realities of people's lives, by drawing them into an encounter with him that reinterprets and transforms their lives, and to send them out on mission, taking the next step forward as individuals and as a church by sharing the joy of the gospel with the world. Francis, like Peter, offered the world the goodness and the truth of the risen Lord. This is his legacy, which we can be confident will continue no matter what others may say or predict. For in the words of St. Thomas Aquinas, he reminds us, bonum diffusivum sui, goodness always tends to spread. And he continued, every authentic experience of truth and goodness seeks by its very nature to grow within us, and any person who has experienced a profound liberation becomes more sensitive to the needs of others. As it expands, goodness takes root and develops. If we wish to lead a dignified and fulfilling life, we have to reach out to others and seek their good. May we follow his lead, and may he rest in peace.